All right, Coach. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to as I said, satisfy my soccer addiction, my really big soccer addiction in D3. So thank you very much.
No, I'm
All
really
right,
glad.
so
Yeah.
listen. Oh, yeah, thank you. Listen, this is hard for me. This is another one that really is hard for me. This is, I'm a University of Mount Union alum, and there's no love lost between our schools on the football field, the other football. So just know that I won't hold it against you that you're Mary Hardin-Baylor guy. So yeah, but hey, let's to just to get us rolling. I know this is you're still in your first year. I mean, you had you were June 2022 last year. You got the job after being an assistant for a number of years, and then you had the season, and now you won't be your first full year won't be until June. But maybe you could just talk a little bit about your soccer experience. What's it been like? How'd you get to the position you're in now?
Yeah, so my head coach, and who I worked for, Brad Bankhead, who is now the men's head coach at Hardin-Simmons University, our rival. So that'll be a fun game coming up when we go to
Yeah.
Abilene in the fall. But so he was my head coach here, and felt like a long time ago, but back in 2007, when I was a freshman, I was a part of his first ever recruiting class at Mary Hardin-Baylor. And so
Mhm.
the journey I got here, so I was actually getting recruited by Hardin Simmons. That was really the main
Mhm.
school that I was looking at. They were really good. They had just come off a conference championship and had won several. I think they still lead our league in most conference championships to date in the ASC.
Mhm.
And so I was really interested in them. And my high school coach,
Mhm.
he and Brad were really good friends. They were in each other's weddings. They both played at Hardin Simmons together. And
Mhm.
Coach Bankhead, he had just taken the job at Mary Hardin-Baylor. And, that was in the era before Google. You Google everything and YouTube everything, right? And you have all this
Yeah.
information on the internet. And so I had never heard of Mary Hardin-Baylor. And so we always get mistaken.
Mhm.
Baylor University is about 30 minutes down the
Yeah.
road from us. And so, kind of like what we get sometimes in the recruiting world is, you mean Baylor? No, no, Mayor Hardin Baylor. And so,
Yeah.
came on a visit, fell in love with it, and have pretty much been here ever since for the most part. So, I've been here as a player and coach
Yeah.
about 14 years, and just
Mhm.
felt like this is where the Lord was leading me to, and where I was called to be,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I've been here ever since. So yeah, I've been a head coach now, not even a full year. I was an assistant coach for about
Mhm.
9 years under Coach Bankhead,
Mhm.
and just took over the reins. And so my family and I, we're really, to coach at your alma mater, is a major blessing, and it's just a privilege. And so we
Yeah. Yeah.
we love it here, and it's really is a great place. So.
H- How how important was Coach Bankhead to your development as a coach?
Oh, I was when I first took over in June, and not that I wanted to make wholesale changes or do things crazy different than Coach. He's very
Mhm.
successful and is the winningest coach in our
Mhm.
program history. And but it's like, what little wrinkles, what things can I do to change and just be me, right? And not
Mhm.
just be Coach Bankhead again. And so I couldn't remember much, honestly, because I'd been here 14 years, right? And so massive, influential, still a mentor,
Yeah.
mentor of mine, and talk to him
Mhm.
quite often. So yeah, just in my upbringing and what he's done for my family, no, he's very, very
Mhm.
important to me.
Yeah. So you mentioned this, but did you? It sounds like you didn't make many changes to the program. You just sort of, I don't want to say just sort of let it ride and
Yeah.
keep it going? I mean, have you done anything differently from the past?
I think we made wrinkles. When you have a
Hmm.
successful program, so we graduated one starting senior from the year before. Our attacking mid, he graduated, was an all conference player, and we returned pretty much everybody else and brought in a really strong freshman group to add on to that. The year before, we went 10-0 in the conference play, and so got
Hmm.
first in regular season, then lost in the semifinals. So it wasn't there weren't wholesale changes that really needed to be made, but
Hmm.
we did
Hmm.
change a few tactics, just defined pressing a little bit. So we play very Jesse
Hmm.
Marsh style tactics, pressing, winning the ball high up the field, and then try to score
Hmm.
a lot of goals, be exciting to watch. And so we did that a little, maybe a little defined
Hmm.
it, but we always pressed. I mean, we were always high energy, hardworking. That's who Coach Bankhead was. It's whenever I was a player, that's how we played. But we did define it a little bit more and gave my own kind of had my own spin on it. Of really we played a
Hmm.
high 4-3-3, played more of a 4-2-3-1, had more defined blocks and how we played. But other than that, yeah, we're not really crazy wholesale changes, especially with we had a very strong
Yeah.
senior heavy team this past year that did a great job of leading.
Hmm. All right, so I do want to ask you. I mean, you have the playing experience, and obviously you have the history at Mary Hardin-Baylor. But from your time, and you're still relatively young, so that it might not be as obvious. But do you think players have gotten better since you started playing? Do you think they're
Yes.
more tactical, maybe more aware?
No, I think the game just in the States has evolved. Levels, at the youth levels, coaches are getting better. They're more educated.
Hmm.
I think our education system is just more streamlined, and you have more access to it, the information,
Hmm.
and it just really trickles down to players. And then as they get to us, I was telling my assistant coach that, especially when I played, not that we didn't have talented players, but the player
Hmm.
pool is so much deeper, I feel like, than what it
Yeah.
was. And you have more youth participating in soccer than ever before, uh, back decades ago. And so, no, for us, I think our league, just our region, it's gotten Division 3 soccer. Just it's a lot more talented than what it was when I
Hmm.
played. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're definitely better than they were back in the '80s. That's for sure. The maybe you could talk a little bit about the American Southwest Conference. I know. I mean, you mentioned Hardin Simmons. I mean, those are names that I think a lot of folks are already familiar with, but also Concordia and UT Dallas. Maybe you could talk about it, just its competitiveness and sort of where you think you sit there. I mean, and we'll talk about it later, but you did win the regular season, I think, and you won the conference tournament. Um, so yeah, I just would be interested in your perspective on the conference.
yeah, I think Region 10, our whole region, Texas, all the way down the West Coast up to Washington. And so we kind of get put on an island out here, and there's talent. There are teams that can play, and it's more difficult for us to schedule out of region opponents. You go up to the Northeast and play up there, and you can get out of your region in 2.5 hours. Our average conference game on the charter
Mm-hmm.
bus is 2.5 to 3 hours, right around there,
Mm-hmm.
if not more. And so, Texas is just so
Yeah.
big, that it's just kind of difficult. And you've got the SCAC, you've got the SCAC schools around
Mm-hmm.
us, but the ASC is very
Mm-hmm.
competitive. Concordia has done a great job recently.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Mims out there to make them really competitive in our region and
Yep.
in our league. And so, back when I was a player and Concordia wasn't great, and I have to tell my alumni buddies that, yeah, it's always a really difficult game. They're like, how? We used to beat them by a lot. It's just things have changed. In UT Dallas, I think they're the second biggest Division III school in the country. There are over 30,000 students there, and the coaching staff does a great job there, and they've always been really competitive. And you've got a historical program like Hardin-Simmons, who in the early days of the ASC were very, very good, and they're always a tough game. And with Coach Bankhead taking over there, I mean, they're going to be really competitive. And so, and you've got the Ozarks, who have had success recently in our league, and a new coach at Laterno University, and he had a great year and made the conference finals. So it's very every weekend is not an easy game. You have to be prepared, and you can't take the weekend off. Otherwise, you're gonna drop a game or you're gonna get a tie. And so our
Yeah.
league, it doesn't get love like the other regions. So especially Region
Yeah.
10, all of the Region 10 minus Willamette this last year, we're in our own pod. And so you technically,
Hmm.
at best, can have two teams out of Region 10 advancing past the second
Hmm.
round, and that's it. And some years, it's only been four teams that are on the same pod, and we don't get an at-large bid out of our region.
Hmm.
And so it's just more
Yeah.
difficult. It's more difficult, and so yeah, it's ASC. It's got its challenges and traveling, but yeah, it's a very it's a tough league, and we've had teams in our league get good results recently and against out of region opponents. So yeah, it's fun.
Y- Your weekday roads on the your weekday games on the road must be brutal. Those must be like super hard, right? If you're traveling 2.5 hours at a minimum to both ways, I mean, that's got to be tough. So, having a, what is it, 13-3-2? Yeah, 13-3-2 record with a bunch of games on the road, pretty, that's pretty remarkable just because of how tough it's not like some schools have a 15-minute drive to their opponent, right? And
Sure,
sounds like that's not the case for you.
and that's our region. So I think
Do you get to do you get yeah,
people are just used to it. Yeah, we're just used to it.
go
Our
ahead.
longest trip is 6.5
Yeah.
conference opponent.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do you get up to the Northeast at all? Do you try to do trips knowing I get the challenges. I'm just more curious.
Yeah, yeah. So we played Messiah 2021 in the fall and played Franklin and
Uh-huh.
Marshall. And so our vision, Coach Bankhead,
Yep.
our as you know, you mentioned our football program, our administration, they support us, and they want us to
Yeah.
win and be competing at a national
Yep.
stage and top 25 every year. And
Mhm.
so we played Messiah and Franklin and Marshall and dropped to Messiah in the with 3 minutes left in double overtime. It was a back and forth game,
Mhm.
and it's one of the few times down here, football is king, right? And if you've ever seen our football stadium, you would
Yeah,
definitely
yeah. Oh
understand.
yeah.
It's crazy,
Oh, it's
and so
it,
so
it,
yeah, playing in front of
yeah. It's
2,000
like a
fans
professional
at Messiah.
professional football stadium.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
when we have
Yeah.
people who are from other regions see our facilities, and it's not just football. Our administration, we just built a $4.5 million soccer
No,
facility.
yeah. Your soccer
So
facility is outrageous. Your field, stadium, and then your practice field are just outrageous, and the locker rooms just outrageous.
yeah, and that's we preach that we're a Division I facility wise school that plays a D3 schedule, and really like if you boil it down, the
Hmm.
top 25 Division III teams, that's how they operate at the end of the day with
Yeah,
the facilities and the players they
yeah,
get, and
yeah.
so yeah, we try to play. We're gonna go to St. Olaf 2023. I'm sorry, 2024.
Hmm.
We're gonna go play St. Olaf and Carlton. And
Hmm.
so we
Oh,
try
nice.
to every 2 to 3 years get out of our region, give our guys an experience, and
Hmm.
just play different teams.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Do you get to travel? I'm not asking because I talked about this yesterday. Do you get over to Europe at all? Like, do you do any of the every 4 year trip or something like that? Or
so,
is that why you go to the Northeast? That replaces that.
so pre-COVID, we would go to Bermuda pretty much every 4 years, the cycle that we can
Mm-hmm.
go. And we played against
Mm-hmm.
their U20, and they had a few senior national team guys. We played a game against them, and they have a top, their top professional league on the island. They have a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
former D2, D1 guys who come back and live at home and still play. And we got to play against them. And so the last time we took that trip was 2017. So we're aiming for potentially
Mm-hmm.
London in summer of 2024. That's what we're aiming for. So we try to. It's
Mm-hmm.
just been difficult with COVID and getting guys organized and
Yeah.
everything like that. So
Right. All right. Um, hey, I just put on this low data mode, so I don't know if you could see me or not, but
I can't.
we can still, as long as you can hear me. Yeah, it's still recording.
Okay.
Um, so I'm trying to figure this out on the fly.
No, no
Um,
worries.
so, hey, where what do you have? What's your sort of like recruiting region? Is it mostly the Texas kids? I mean, which outstanding ball players every single that I've seen. I'm familiar with Solar.
Yeah.
We went down there for some tournament, and they were just incredible team. So
Yeah, Solar, I mean, their MLS Next Academy is for one of the non-MLS teams, they're very talented. They're very
mm-hmm.
good. They're always strong. And
Yeah,
so we just get mainly Texas guys. So if you look at Texas, which is
yeah,
a massive state, we're right in the middle.
mm-hmm.
So we're about 2.5,
Yeah,
3 hours, depending on where you are in
in
the
all
Dallas-Fort
directions.
Worth Metroplex.
Yeah,
Yeah, 3 hours to Houston, an hour to Austin, 2 hours
mm-hmm.
to San Antonio. So we mainly get Texas kids. We have a few sprinkled in here and there of
Mm-hmm.
Colorado. We have one Colorado kid right now. We're potentially getting another. We've got some Oklahoma kids,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you look at Texas, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
unique. You've got a lot of talented players with only four Division 1s in the state,
Mm-hmm.
and a
Right.
bunch of Division 2s and NAIs,
Yeah.
and then it kind of trickles down to us.
Oh, you still there, Coach? You seem
I'm
to
still
have
here.
dropped.
I'm still here.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, all right. All right. Sorry. Um, I didn't catch the last bit, but we'll just kind of keep rolling with it, and this
It
will be a
it
good exercise.
Yeah, if my internet is an issue, I can always
Mm-hmm.
table this and we can my house internet might be better. I have no idea. I don't know if it's my office.
Yeah.
If UMHB, we're shortchanging our internet service to provide for the football program, right? To go try to beat Mount Union again.
You know what? You got to do what you got to do. I totally get it. When you're gunning for the best, that's what you got to do. Short change on the internet.
Uh,
I hear you now. So we'll just keep rolling, and if it
Sounds
gets if
good.
it gets bad again, then we'll just yeah, maybe I'm keeping better track, so we'll stop there, and then we can pick up when
Yeah, no
we
worries.
figure out the next. You know, I'm curious. One of the things that some people have said that the reason why the Northeast teams, obviously Chicago wins, so Northeast Midwest sort of area, does well does better in the NCAA's is because they don't have to their idea of going on the road is not as impactful as it is for the Western teams. So from Colorado to all you guys to the California teams, do you think that's accurate, or do you? I mean, is it something that you deal with and you don't really think much about?
Yeah, I think it's more of who we can schedule and who we can compete with
Mm,
and getting those games against quality opponents. if we in 2021, if we go and get a result, even a tie against Messiah, and we lost 1-0 to Franklin and Marshall, um, say we go 1-0-1 on that weekend, our strength of schedule, everything, it takes a massive jump, massive jump. And those are two heavy hitters
Mm-hmm.
up in the Northeast
Yeah.
region. And so it's just more difficult. You can get, I think even Region 8, where Minnesota is, maybe a little shorter distance for them to play those tougher opponents like the U Chicago's, teams like that. And so I just, I just think it's just the geography is just better for them. It's nothing that we can do
Mm-hmm.
to fix that, or
Yeah.
anyone can do. It's really on us to pay for
Yeah.
teams, and I think Trinity does a great job of
Yeah.
that. They fly teams down to play
Mm-hmm.
against them, which is why their strength of schedule is always one of the best in
Mm-hmm.
our region, and they really set themselves up for a potential at-large
Mm-hmm.
bid or to be number one in our region and to host the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament. And so for us, that's really it's been our goal, and really
Mm-hmm.
where our next step in our program has been, or it's going to be, is to play more of those out of
Mm-hmm.
region opponents and get out of Region 10 as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I'm sure your strength of schedule, right? Like, is only as good as what Region 10 has to offer, unless you could get the occasional games of, like you're playing St. Olaf, and that really would boost anybody's strength of schedule. But I'm assuming that would be the case, no?
yeah, and really you kind of have to you know hit all the check all the boxes, right? So you can set up an awesome schedule. You can play
Mm-hmm.
against teams you think will be good,
Mm-hmm.
or they've had a really good year the year before, and then they don't
Yeah.
have a great year, and that really hurts your SOS,
Yeah.
or you just don't get the results because they are a
Yeah.
good team. And
Yeah.
so this last year we kind of really hit every every we checked every box. We beat Trinity. We did lose to St. Thomas
Mm-hmm.
early in the year,
Yeah.
but we won the games that we really needed to win,
Yeah.
and it really put us in a position of
Mm-hmm.
getting second in our region. So
Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm just always curious about that. Just because there was some other folks had made those comments about the difficulty it is, and I know, you know, being some of the coaches I spoke to, Luther and some other places, just talking about that geography of and the
mhm.
nature of Division 3, right? Because it's so dispersed, so big country out there. So, um, let me ask you, what if somebody asked if somebody asks you what your now there's some time passed, what's your assessment of your first season? How do you think the team played, and how do you think the season went overall?
Yeah, so especially as a first year head coach, and we've only won our conference tournament three times ever. This was the third time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, as you know, with our football program and even our basketball programs recently have done really well in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
We have
hoops is pretty good too.
very good. Our men's team, they won the regular season this year, and they've been ranked in the
Mm-hmm.
top 25, and I think they're second in the region right now. Um, and so it's just strong, and so the expectation is to win. And so for us, we can enjoy the year, but we're not satisfied. A lot of, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
as a first year head coach, a lot of good learning lessons, and to me, it's always the learning lesson that I took away is my big takeaway was just learning to grow and to be
Yeah.
open to not wholesale changes, but hey, today the session went great. Talk with the staff. What do you think about the session? It went great. Today it wasn't great. What can we change? How can
Mm-hmm.
we make things better? And so I told our guys about the years, just look, we can enjoy it. We had we built memories and won conference for the third time ever. But losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament at home, it's not acceptable. POU, a great team, well coached.
Yeah.
I don't think they lost a starter from the year before when they went to the
Mm-hmm.
second round, and they looked like it. And we had
Yeah.
two guys who had played an NCAA tournament match in their career, and we looked like it. We looked
Yeah.
young, and we started the game slow, and PLU capitalized,
Oh, you're
and
done.
we kind of got settled and we battled back, but when you give up uncharacteristic goals and a team's going to
Hmm.
punish you on mistakes, the small details,
Yeah.
it's just hard. You know, we averaged 3 goals a game this last year, and
Hmm.
you can't always rely on just outgunning your opponent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in
Yeah.
the NCAA tournament. And so,
Yeah.
we're 3-2 at one point with I think about 10 minutes left, and pushing numbers forward, and felt like we were going to get the goal back. One counterattack later, and they just punished us, and the game was
Hmm.
over at that point. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it was a great learning lesson for us and the guys that we do have back, the young guys that we have, just knowing what that feels like, and then setting up our schedule to put us in that same spot to have that potential. So
Yeah. That is a you can't outcoach youth. You can't. You can have some talented players, but if they're young and they don't know the situation they're in, there's no coaching around that, right? You deal with it the best you can, and yeah, against a team like Pacific Lutheran that has experience, you show up slow. They're
yeah,
good enough to really beat you down at that point, right? Like just
yeah,
the
no doubt,
reality of it.
no doubt.
What surprised you about your team?
I think the one thing that really surprised myself and our staff was, Mary Hardin-Baylor, we're very known for our ability to score on set pieces. We
Hmm.
we focus. We're not the team that's going to slow it down, and when the ball goes out, we're going to walk to the ball and kill the game. I hate that. It wears me out. But we really do focus on corner kicks and being really the small details, right? That's what wins games. If you quantify
Hmm.
it, I think it was the 2018 World Cup, in the quarterfinals and on, over half the goals were scored on set pieces.
Set
And
pieces, yeah.
so it's a crazy stat, right? And so if you do that, it's one of the
Yeah.
few things that we can control as a coach, right? Really controlling the
Hmm.
game. And so we're really known for it. And we have a really long throw
Hmm.
in that's dangerous. And we scored the most goals in the run of play
Ooh.
that we've had since I've been a coach. And so that was
Yeah.
really shocking for us in a good way, right? It was a really good positive. The
Hmm.
guys did a great job of pressing and counter pressing and then playing quickly
Hmm.
after we won the ball.
Yeah. All right. So you brought up a subject that I've been sort of fascinated by is the idea of long throws and the danger that they provide within the first third or the final third, excuse me. Um, like, do you run plays on your long throws, or
We
is
do.
it just hey, get your I don't know who your tallest guy, and he's got a set of instructions. Get your ball, you get your head on the ball, and then we'll do the rest.
Yeah, we do, and it's almost like a quarterback. We allow
Mm-hmm.
the long throw specialist to
Uh huh.
decide. We pretty much have 3 sets
Mm-hmm.
or 3 plays,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Yep.
decide what he does. Actually, more four, I guess four. And we have different
Mm-hmm.
wrinkles. So what makes us difficult is we run the same runs every single time, and
Mm-hmm.
we have signals or play calls that
Right.
he
Right.
he knows where everyone knows where the ball's going, except for the
Yep.
opponent. We do the same thing on our corner kicks. We have
Uh huh.
guys make the same runs as coaches, as players, depending on who we're playing against. Toward the end of the
Yeah.
year, we let our set piece guy genuinely, like, he called the play,
Yeah.
and and then sometimes as staff we call the signal and they get
Mm-hmm.
after it, and so
Yeah.
it's pretty fun when it works.
Yeah.
And when it
It's
doesn't, you get countered on, it's not. So,
is it yeah, like if you're caught off guard, you're in trouble, right? Um
yeah.
the let Is it a traditional throw? Is he just sort of making a long run and then whipping the ball in, or is it is it a flip throw?
So we had
At least your last year.
our last year we had a pretty special. He was an All American for us, our center mid,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a freak. He was 5'7",
Uh-huh.
and he could do a flip throw, and it would
Okay.
go backside of the six,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's
he
just
could throw it.
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
just insane. And he,
Yeah.
we would, if we felt like we had an advantage on throw-ins, he could throw it in
Mm-hmm.
from, you know, right close to where the final third started on the field, and he could flip
Yeah.
throw it
Yeah.
deep into the 18. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and then we also have a short option to where we have
Mm-hmm.
a guy short and they can play it, and then we're dumping the
Mm-hmm.
ball in that way. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we just got have a bunch of wrinkles on what we do and where we're
Yeah.
throwing and different targets. And so if a guy's getting doubled up, we have a
Mm-hmm.
secondary target that
Mm-hmm.
is the option that flicks it on.
Yeah.
So we've made our bread and butter the last couple of years on set pieces. So
Yeah. Yeah. The I'm just reminded. The reason why I ask about the flip throws because Amherst had a player last in 2021 who would
yeah, I
do
remember
flip
him.
throws from like midfield and would launch it. Like I
He
mean,
took
I have
and he was
never
running-
seen that type of distance on a ball, um, and that made him super dangerous
oh
every time.
yeah, I think I
Yeah.
remember watching the them playing the semifinal. I think he took
Hmm.
and the semifinal. He took every single throw in on the field everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere. Just
Everywhere.
right.
And
Yep. Yeah.
Nick quite wasn't that way, but in the attacking third, especially
Yeah.
attacking half most of the
Yeah.
time, it was Nick.
Yeah.
He took every throw in, and it really is a game changer
Yeah.
where you can flip the field like that. And
Yeah.
some teams they struggle, they really struggle. So we're not quite
Yeah.
Amherst in our
Some.
athleticism and height, but
Yeah.
we try to be right.
Yeah. Is it Nick Villanueva? Is who you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just looking on your web page. Um, I mean, they're under any circumstances really difficult to defend. That's the that even under the best of conditions, right? I always say sometimes the most effective teams aren't necessarily the ones that get to goal every, as all the time, but the ones that unnerve the defense and
Oh,
constantly unnerve them, right? You play some games where you're just not even, they're not even bothered, right? Like they're just, but if you do that for 90 minutes, you're constant under every play, they got to be spot on or else something wrong happens. Like those are the teams that have the biggest impact, I think, and just because it's hard for I'd say it like a collegiate player to stay at 100% for 90 minutes, right? And I think that's on the throw ins. That is definitely a big thing. My
yeah.
only issue with the ones that I watch, and I haven't watched Nick do his, so I'm not necessarily including you. There, I've seen throws that to me would, if I was the ref, I would call as an illegal throw or a foul throw, simply because what I see a lot of kids do nowadays is they just take advantage of the field, right? So,
Mhm.
hey, I might start where the throw went in, but I'm gonna run 10 yards and make the throw, and that to me. And I have some question about how some kids make the throws. Like I said, I haven't seen Nick do his, so that's my other big pet peeve about him. I don't mind them. If you have that in your arsenal, that's absolutely fantastic. It's just I wonder sometimes, like because of the effort of trying to get the ball in, like sometimes I just think they're foul throws. But whatever. That's just my pet theory as of late.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. We've been on both sides. We've had, I think, really most of our guys, I would say, are pretty legal, but we play against a few
mm-hmm.
teams that
Yeah.
like both of his feet are not on the ground the whole time, or that guy is
The
throwing
whole
it
time, exact, or
sideways.
they step on the field
Yes. Yeah.
sideways. That's the one that drives me nuts, right? Like,
Yeah.
I, I'm not. It doesn't. Something just doesn't look right,
Hmm.
And then again, sort of them taking advantage of the field. Like you're supposed to only get a yard, Like where'd the ball go out? You have a yard, one way or the other. Even if you go backwards, you're supposed to be within range. But I don't think refs call that stuff anymore.
No, and that's
Um,
where we've given refs
yeah,
too much, leeway, or they have so much influence
yeah,
on that, and pick and choose on, when to
yeah,
speed up play,
yeah,
when to yellow card a guy when he
yeah,
is going
yeah,
slow into the game,
yeah,
or that's what they've been doing
yeah,
all game,
yeah,
or yeah, gain 10 to 15 yards, and
yeah,
then the next time we're yelling and complaining about it, so
yeah.
he doesn't allow it. It just, yeah.
Yeah. And then
It's
he
like,
calls you, like, oh, you were 3 yards away. Yeah. That's the other thing. I mean, the referee thing discussion is a whole other subject, right? It's just I'll just call it the downright inconsistency of how they apply the laws of the game to the game, right? Like
mhm.
they'll allow a 2-footed, tackle and not not call it. But man, your shirt's untucked. You got to tuck your shirt in. They get those. They don't get the hard ones.
Yeah.
So anyhow, before I get in trouble and I get more emails, hate emails. Um, hey, let me just ask you. And you only had really 2 ties, so maybe it doesn't really sway you at all. But do you have any thoughts on the no overtimes? I mean, is it something that you don't mind resolving a game in 90 minutes? Do you wish you had the overtimes back during the regular season?
I guess it depends on what side of the overtime you're on and who you're playing against. So obviously playing against Messiah, and we lose that game on overtime. Would I have loved
Yeah.
to end in regulation? Yes, right, and get a result on the road against a really quality opponent.
Uh,
This year the first
that's funny.
overtime game I can
That's
think
funny.
of, or the second overtime game I can think of, against Laterno. We were on them. They play in a low block and make it really difficult to break
Mm,
down, and do a great job. They're crazy organized, but we were just on the doorstep. Keeper just is incredible there. He's very talented, making save after save. And I felt like if we had
mm,
another 30 minutes or 20 minutes, we would have
mm,
potentially knocked one in, right? And so those are the games you're like, man, I wish I
yeah.
had just a little bit more time. Um, I, I, I guess this is where I like it. Just the women play before us at 5, and if they have a tight game and their game goes
Mm,
long, we're pushed back, and our guys, we don't know when to start our warm up, and if we can do all of our warm up on the game field, or if we have to jump to a practice field or auxiliary field.
mm,
And so for me and
mm.
being structured, I like that selfishly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think it does devalue our. I remember a lot of overtime wins as a player and how much fun that was. Golden goal and
Yeah.
jumping on your
That was fun.
teammate.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so much fun. So much fun. And obviously, I've been on the other end of that as
Yeah.
well, losing an OT. But yeah, just the feeling of winning in overtime, and it's just special. It's really fun. And so I think we miss out on that aspect of it, that experience for the players. But as a logistical standpoint,
Hmm.
I'm not. I'm pretty indifferent. I'm pretty in the
Hmm.
middle, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, to me, it's an emotional thing, right? Like, do
Mhm.
you like the emotion of being on the winning side or the losing side, or you don't? All the other reasons for not having them or having them, just outside of that, just sort of, I don't want to say ring hollow to me, but they just don't. Like I said, it's just a great experience.
It
It's like
is.
you win the World Cup every time. You go into overtime, you win it, and if you lose it, you feel like you just got, you got shot. It's just which again, I think that's the enjoyable part.
Yeah, no
Hey,
doubt.
you like I mentioned, you went 13-3-2. Your you won the American Southwest Conference regular season in the tournament. Did I mean, did you ever go? Was there a point in the season where you thought, "Hey, this team has legs"? You're feeling really confident going into your conference tournament, and did you have higher expectations uh, in the NCAA's?
Yes. So, beginning of the year, it was a pretty rough start. To kind of give an overview of what was going on behind the scenes, if you look at our box scores, I don't believe we had a consistent starting 11 for the first 5 or 6 games, with injury, and we had a player on national team duty who came back for Trinity. That was his first game back. We lost a player to a concussion in
Oof.
practice after the second game of the year, who's a very talented player. We lost our starting center back second game of the year to an ankle injury. He never returned. Very talented player for us.
Oh
And
my
we had a bunch of
gosh.
young freshmen. It was just,
Oh my god. Oh
you
my
got a young
gosh.
coach who's trying to sort out a deep team, and injuries, and it was a mess. I think our fourth game of the year, third or fourth game, um, oh, we only had one guy who had played the year before and started consistently in our starting 11 in our third or fourth game. And
Wow.
so it felt like for us as a staff, if we could get through the the preseason, which was a brutal preseason, we played against some really good teams. And
Hmm.
if we could get through that and come, we may probably going to get bumped and bruised along the way, but if we came out of that doing okay, we could really make a run in our league. And so, right when we got into league play, we got healthy. We finally started getting some consistent starting 11s, guys playing with each other,
Yeah.
and it just grew. And I think one of the weekends we played against UTD and Ozarks. We beat UTD at their place and had a really good game. That game was much tighter than the box score, and it was a really
Uh-huh.
good result. They're a
Yeah.
good side. And then we go play up at Ozarks, which is a 6.5+ hour trip, and it's difficult. We had
Uh-huh.
not
Oh my
won there
gosh.
since 2012. We hadn't won a game there since 2012, so it's just a difficult place to play.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
we got the result there. And after that, as a staff, we knew we had a team who could get results. And so,
Yeah.
going into Concordia, the last regular game of the season, which in regional terms it mattered, but in conference play didn't matter. And we still had a few guys banged up that we held out, or they were on a minutes restriction, and didn't have a great mentality, even as a staff, preparing the
Hmm.
guys for that game. And Concordia is really talented, and they just three shots, 3 goals. You know, that was the box score. They only their first 3 shots were goals on
Oh
us, and
my
so
gosh.
it was just one
Yeah.
of those kind of games, right? And they were playing lights out and playing amazing, and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
talented. We just we go from almost scoring a goal to 2 minutes later giving up a goal, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And
Yeah.
so we kind of refocused.
Actually, I was going to ask you about that game because that's the one that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we going
I
into the
was actually
game.
going to ask you about that game just because it stands out. It
Sure,
stands out.
sure. And nothing like I said, Concordia, they played lights out. They played amazing. They scored some fantastic goals. And I think as a staff, our mentality was toward the conference tournament and postseason play. And our guys were, and we held out a our center back who was still banged up. We had our attacking center mid who was coming back from an injury. Our starter, he was on a minutes restriction, trying to get him fitness. He gotten hurt in the UT Dallas game a couple weeks before that. Hadn't played in a match in like 2 weeks. And so, our mentality was more of a management, and guys knew that, our starting keeper would only play a half, and players who hadn't played a lot were going to get a lot of minutes. And so, I think we went into that game more of let's not get hurt and let's manage the game instead of let's go win the game. Right? We're playing against a good team, a quality opponent. Let's go out and win this. It was more of let's just get through this. And so they jumped all over us and they played great. They really did. But I think that was the best thing for us, honestly. and it really focused us on the tournament and made our guys realize that if we don't show up, we're going to get beat and we might get spanked. And so for us to play the way we did in the tournament, a big reason was, I'm really thankful that we lost that game. I really am, in the way we did, because I think it helped us play the way we played in the tournament, in the ASC tournament. So,
If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my chief marketing officer. I think this keeps him happy.